It's 3 a.m. You're in a helium headspace. It's Thursday, October 30th, 2025. A River Runs Through It premiered on this day in 1992, directed by Robert Redford. It stars Craig Sheffer, Brad Pitt, Brenda Blethyn, Emily Lloyd, and Tom Skerritt, who, as Reverend McLean, preaches, "Each one of us here today will at one time in our lives look upon a loved one who is in need and ask the same question. We are willing to help, Lord, but what, if anything, is needed? For it is true we can seldom help those closest to us. Either we don't know what part of ourselves to give, or more often than not, the part we have to give is not wanted. And so it is those we live with and should know who elude us. But we can still love them. We can love completely without complete understanding." It made $298,000 its opening weekend and has since accumulated $43.4 million. Today in 1885, in Haley, Idaho Territory, a boy named Ezra Pound arrived who would shove English language poetry into the 20th century and set it on fire to see what survived. Midwife to imagism, tireless booster and editor for the likes of T.S. Eliot and James Joyce, self-advertised modernist with a pocket motto of, "Make it new." He made it new all right, and also made it ugly. Wartime fascist radio rants, an incitement for treason, and a dozen years in St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Washington, D.C. Yet even from the wire and dust of defeat came the Paysan Cantos, which earned the first Bollingen Prize in 1949, and a national uproar. He slipped back to Italy after his release in 1958 and died in Venice in 1972. The ledger on Pound never balances. Visionary craftsmen and crank propagandists occupy the same skull, but the modern poem he helped invent is still speaking, brisk and unsentimental. In the ABCs of Reading, Ezra Pound wrote, "Literature is news that stays news." Today in 1886, in the unassuming Missouri hamlet of Humansville, a child was born who would stitch bright ribbons of audacity through the sober bodice of American letters. Zoë Akins, a poet of playhouses who turned the world's contrarieties into graceful dialogue and clean, unsentimental lines. She came up from journalism and early poems to Broadway successes such as Déclassé and The Greeks Had a Word for It, sent her wit west to the studios, and in 1935, for her dramatization of Edith Wharton's The Old Maid, received the Pulitzer Prize, a laurel placed upon her brow amid the bustle of Manhattan stages and the murmurs of critics who suspected that genteel ferocity is still ferocity all the same. She watched her cosmopolitan comedy about three fortune-seeking models echo into How to Marry a Millionaire and other screen incarnations, and, having written with a cool flame for nearly half a century, she died in Los Angeles on October 29th, 1958, the eve of her 72nd birthday. In the play Greatness, Act 1, Zoë Akins wrote, "Even the great can have only their own sort of greatness." Today in 1896, and will last in Massachusetts, there arrived one Ruth Gordon Jones, who proceeded, with Yankee pluck and an actress's appetite, to wear the Broadway boards thin, then retire to a writing desk with Garson Kanin to mint bright talk for pictures like Adam's Rib and Pat and Mike. And at last, to astonish the Graybeards by blooming in her 70s before the camera itself, hoisting an Academy Award for Rosemary's Baby, and skipping, spry as a mayfly, through Harold and Maude. Thus she did prove that a career, if salted with nerve and industry, may stretch like a good cereal, each chapter merrier and more audacious than the last. In her autobiography, Ruth Gordon Jones wrote, "Pan me, don't give me the part, publish everybody's book but this one, and I will still make it." Today in 1948, the river town of Donora, Pennsylvania found itself muffled in a jaundiced blanket so thick it seemed the very sky had been smelted to slag, and in that unnatural twilight the breath of the old and the frail grew short. The zinc works roared on like an unrepentant furnace, and a 5-day visitation of fog and fume began to count its dead, about 20 by the time the rain finally rinsed the air, leaving grief in the parlors and a question on every lip. What profit is industry if it must first pawn its people? The valley's crooked geography and a cap of warm air pinioned the poison close to the ground. Doctors rationed oxygen from house to house. Streetlights burned at noon, and from this calamity came a slow national awakening that would help summon the first serious stirrings of clean air law. Bill Shimp, an ambulance driver, said, "If you chewed hard enough, you could swallow it." Today's poem is The River Merchant's Wife, a letter by Ezra Pound, published in 1915. While my hair was still cut straight across my forehead, I played at the front gate, pulling flowers. You came by on bamboo stilts, playing horse. You walked about my seat, playing with blue plums, and we went on living in the village of Chocan, two small people without dislike or suspicion. At 14, I married my lord, you. I never laughed, being bashful. Lowering my head, I looked at the wall. Called to 1,000 times, I never looked back. At 15, I stopped scowling. I desired my dust to be mingled with yours. Forever and forever and forever. Why should I climb the lookout? At 16, you departed. You went into far Kuto Yen by the river of swirling eddies, and you have been gone 5 months. The monkeys make sorrowful noise overhead. You dragged your feet when you went out. By the gate now, the moss is grown, the different mosses, too deep to clear them away. The leaves fall early this autumn, in wind. The paired butterflies are already yellow with August over the grass in the west garden. They hurt me. I grow older. If you are coming down through the narrows of the river Kiang, please let me know beforehand, and I will come out to meet you as far as Chofu-sa. And those are some of the things we humans have done over the years. Do good work, smile more, and please follow our work.